What's up, YouTube? Today we're out here on location at a nearby lake. We're going to be testing out the Sigma 30mm 1.4. Previously I did a test kind of just in the house on some little trinkets and gadgets that I had laying across the table, but today we want to test it to see how it actually looks when you're shooting portrait shots. I'm going to be the model. I'm going to have an assistant help me with the shooting, and we'll see how it comes out. Specifically, I want to see how sharp it is at 1.4 versus maybe a couple stops up. You know, usually lenses have their sweet spot not at its widest aperture. So we'll test it out. Also, we're going to be shooting some high-speed sync today with the i40 Nissin. It's one of the few options that you have as a Sony shooter to have high-speed sync. And we're going to basically shoot the Nissin on top of the Sony a6000, but then have another flash off camera shooting in slave mode. It should translate over high-speed sync from the camera to the slave flash, so we'll see how that turns out as well. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so real quick, I brought it back inside, back in the lab here on my MacBook Pro. We're going to check out some of the images that I took outside. Now, I wanted to specifically take a few shots at different aperture settings. So I had two different areas where we shot at 1.4, 1.6, 1.7, and 2.0 just to show you the difference in what the aperture does for these portraits. This is my assistant doing these shots, so she's not a professional. She isn't even a hobbyist, so just be aware of that. This is her first time really shooting the camera at all, but we get to check out how good this autofocus feature is on this Sigma 30mm 1.4. So this shot here is shot wide open at 1.4 ISO 100. I really like this image. I just like the detail, the color, everything. But let's go zoom in on the eyes here to see what really happened. You know, in portraits, I always try to get the front eye, so I'm positioned just a little bit on an angle. I try to get the front eye in focus more so than the rear eye. In this shot, I'm noticing the rear eye is like super crispy, super clear, and I'm just seeing a little bit of blur on the front eye here. So I definitely need to practice different autofocus functionalities. In this case, I wasn't shooting, but I think we were in the wide focus area on the Sony a6000. I think I want to try out the flexible spot and just always be sure to focus in and lock in on that front eye. But I really like this image regardless. I'm really being nitpicky by this being not as focused as this, but I'm trying to get better, so it is what it is. So that was 1.4. Let's check it at 1.6. Let that load up. So not my favorite image, but we're checking detail. Yeah, here I noticed both eyes are definitely more flush and just more in focus. Now I'm not as angled as the previous pose. However, I do notice that it just pulled in more focus and more detail of my face. It makes sense because the aperture is just pulling in more of a focus area. So at 1.6, we're seeing a little bit more sharpness. Now let's check it at 1.7. So at 1.7, yeah, I'm definitely noticing both eyes are fully in focus, nice and clear and sharp. Even more of my face is in focus here. And yeah, great detail on the clothing and everything. So 1.7 is looking really cool. You know, sometimes you don't always want to be wide open at that 1.4. That's very, very shallow depth of field. So I may experiment, especially with like paid shoots or paid clients, bumping it up a little bit, a few stops, just to make sure that I get everything, both eyes in focus. Let's check it out here at 2.0. Yeah, everything nice and clear in terms of me, my face, my hat. Let's see. Yep, clothing. So at 2.0, pulling in even more focus, which it should, makes perfect sense. Looks nice and clear. Now notice the difference in the fall off in the backdrop though. I like this image also. It's got nice little clouds and everything, but notice all the detail you can see in the tree. I'm gonna flip it real quick back to the 1.4 to see how, like, it's pretty crazy. Definitely not as much detail in the trees, and it's just me, super crispy. So I actually really do like how it looked at 1.4. Just have to fix that eye issue. And then real quick, I did it again with 4 other images at a different spot. So we got this cool guy here again. You know, he's sitting there looking real cool, but this picture is at f1.4. And we're going to zoom in on the eye again to see what happened. And boom. Super crispy. Front eye, not as much. So definitely something I'm going to be looking at fixing. This was a test shoot. This is me. I wasn't with a model or anything. So this is a good time to test out the gear. But I'm noticing on 1.4, definitely catching this back eye, super crispy. But I've just noticed a little bit of blurriness. This is being nitpicky, but it is what it is. I'm trying to get better. Still a really cool image to me. Like, just love that fall off and bokeh. Next up, the 1.6. So, boom, yeah, both eyes in focus, looking good, looking crispy. Yeah, nice detail on the face there. Even has a little fall off just going back toward the shoulder, which is cool. That's a nice image. Let's see that 1.7. This is decent. I noticed, you know, everything is in the same focal length. I actually think it focused more on my nose and lip area a little bit more. I just noticed just a little bit of blurriness, like very slight. But this is still a good image. I think that moving forward, if I want to be shooting at the 1.4, 1.6, I'm gonna maybe sometimes use manual. If I don't have a lot of catch light, just flip it to manual, use focus peaking, and just make sure everything is super crispy around the eyes. But let's check it real quick at 2.0. Yeah, everything flush, everything super nice and in focus. So 2.0, definitely, like, might use that as my safety zone if things just seem not to be going right in terms of getting the super fine details of the eyes. But man, you know, loving this lens for the price range. I don't know of anything else really comparable, honestly, to be able to capture images at 1.4 with autofocus on Sony E-mount. There's not a whole lot of options, and I think that, you know, these pictures are proof that this is a lens that you should definitely take a look at. I'll have more videos coming up with more photo shoots and me kind of really figuring out how to solve that little eye issue. That was the only thing that I found was super crispy here, not so much right here. Again, I'm tilted, but still it's something that I as a photographer should be able to fix and just learn my gear a little bit more. But man, I give this lens an A. I give it an A, not an A+. I give it an A, and I'm glad I purchased it. So, hey guys, stay tuned. I plan on doing these with as many of the shoots I have coming up as possible. Seems like you guys like to just share knowledge about gear, so I want to keep giving information as I can, and look forward to hearing your feedback. All right, y'all. I'll see you in the next video.